Hey, welcome back everyone. This is Bill. I'm an expat living in the Philippines, and I'm definitely a prepper. So, for your daily dose of gloom and doom, I'm going to put out this video just because it's been what's on my mind lately. These are the 5 things you absolutely must do if you want to survive what's coming, okay? Now, survival's an option, right? You don't have to change. You don't have to do any of this stuff. You can just put your head in the sand, or you can not look up like that one movie, and you can just ride it out to the end and just call it good. That's not my particular strategy, right? So there are 5 things you have to do to survive what's coming. And what's coming could be anything. But specifically, the things I'm worried about where I'm living and in today's time are natural disasters, right? We just had a typhoon just miss where we're at, but it hit up north, right? And it's typhoon and hurricane season around the world. So whether you need to survive a natural disaster as an earthquake, storms, volcanic activity, these are things you have to consider. The other stuff I want you to think about is famine. Now, just because you might be in an area where, your belly's getting fat and you're ordering steak every night, well, that's good for you. But things are going to change, and not just in your wallet book, right? The availability of certain types of food and the areas that certain foods just aren't existing, famine, let's call it what it is going to increase dramatically more than it has for the last 30, 40, 50 years, right? Famine's always been around. But the risk right now to me is the biggest risk is famine and drought, right? Drought causes famine, etc. So those are the 2 biggest things I'm watching. You can call it weather or climate related all you want, but it's just this rock doing what it does, and we have to ride this out. You can prepare for these 2 things though. And then 2 other items, World War III. My personal opinion, we are in World War III. It's just with today's technology and media and propaganda and stuff, it is just not called World War III yet. A lot of people don't believe it, but I have a feeling in the next 6 to 8 months, it'll hit home to a lot more people. And it's something you still have time to prepare for. And then the other thing you need to prepare for is your personal health, right? The health of you and your partners, your family. You need to make sure that you're covered for unexpected medical issues, right? So that's, prepping doesn't mean zombies and nuclear war. It means preparing for anything that can dramatically and drastically affect your way of life. All right, so that said, the 5 things that you need to do. 5 things I suggest you do. Number 1 is pay attention. So many people are not paying attention to what's going on globally. They're focused in their own little ecosystem, their own little bubbles. They're only looking at what it affects them. They might be in the West and thinking, oh, you know what, the prices are higher. But they're not paying attention to why prices are higher or what's going on. They're not looking at the droughts in Europe. They're not looking at the food crops that are being wasted and decimated globally, right? So pay attention. Trust whatever news media you want, but diversify your input, right? There's a lot of news media outlets that I like. I like WEON. I like DW. I like Al Jazeera. I follow both Fox and CNN just to get different viewpoints and, different talking points. Because remember, in the U.S., they're pitting you against each other. So you're going to see Fox News say one thing and CNN say the other, and you need to disseminate what's going on in the middle with other inputs. I highly recommend paying attention to other prepper channels. Not only will you learn a lot of neat techniques and you'll have good ideas on what you need to do for certain things, these guys touch on topics and they do a lot of research because, they're a million user or 100,000 plus subscriber channels, so they have the time and investment to put into it. So I watch these channels so I can see what's going on. I learn about the Bricks and Road project in Pakistan and why it's such a big deal to China, and that's why they're having border skirmishes with India. Because of the oil. There's a lot of things I'm learning just by paying attention to what's going on, where I can then take all these tidbits of information and try to formulate my idea and my thoughts on what's going on in the world in relationship to drought, disaster, famine, war, and so on. So the first thing you really need to do is pay attention. Now, that said, pay attention but don't panic. Pay attention but don't let your anxiety blow through the roof, right? You have to take each bit of news you get, look at it in a totalitarian situation, and decide if it's going to affect your current situation or not. But if you're not paying attention, you're surely not prepping. So number one, please pay attention to what's going on. And then the next thing you need to do is evaluate your risks, right? So you can't do any prepping if you don't know where your weaknesses and risks are. In my particular case, I'm out in the countryside. I have a pretty solid building. I'm not near volcanic activity, even though we're in the earthquake zones. I don't think war will ever physically touch me where I'm at. So I'm looking at things like food and drought and energy issues, right? So these are what I've been prepping things on. So know your situation, know where you're at, know what areas you need to improve, and then you can start putting together the plan, right? You really shouldn't do any prepping until you have, first, the information, second, your self-evaluation. When you get those two things pretty much worked out, and you know what your major risks are, and you know where your major weaknesses are, then put together a plan and start working on this plan, right? So the next number 3 item that you need to do is you actually need to start preparing. You need to actually start stacking some food, making sure you have a good water supply, or at least the ability to produce water on demand. Make sure you have power backup to your backup. So once you have your plan and once you understand your current risk, you can start on the third item is prepping. You start prepping slowly. Look at your areas and don't try to do one thing all the way to 100. Try to get everything up to about 20. So 20% of where you want to be. That's the dog hitting the camera there. You get about 20% of where you want to be, and then look at the other risks and say, okay, I want to take this prep up to 30. I want to get more medical stuff, more advanced medical stuff, or I want to get more advanced food preps, MREs, which I don't recommend because of the cost. But you might want to get MREs where you're at. You might decide that your best bet is to bug out, so you might be wanting to sort out your bug out location. Maybe you're in a metropolitan area, and your plan is to do whatever you can to get out of that area, and then you'll have a safe place, hopefully set up somewhere else. All right, so the fourth thing I want to really talk about is your situational awareness. So now that you have an idea what's going on in the world, you know what crisis will affect you, you have a pretty good plan in place, and you've been driving towards stacking and preparing your items. So now you always want to keep your situational awareness on guard. You want to know what's going on locally. You want to know what's going on outside your house, down your street, because the situation in your place, you might be in Chicago, right? People in Chicago have very good situational awareness. They know exactly what's going on. They don't discredit sounds in groups of people. So know your environment, know your situation, and have a good understanding of what is going on. You might want to go out and scout local resources. You might want to know where the local hardware store is located. You might want to know where the local solar panel store is located. So if a big crisis does hit, you might have a list of areas that you might want to try to, I won't say loot, but let's say salvage or forage from. But you need to know where these areas are in advance, right? So if you have an understanding of where resources are at in your local area, then you can make a plan to appropriate things as needed, depending on the situation, right? Does your entire site you're at, is it secure? Do you have secure gates? Do you have CCTV monitoring? Do you know what's going on in your local areas? So keep your situational awareness pretty good too, right? Know where you're at with your preps, know where you're at with your physical site security, and know what's in your surrounding environment. You have to keep an idea of what's going on. And number 5 on my list, my personal list, is to keep reevaluating, right? So you don't just buy a bunch of food and a bunch of preps and throw it in a box and say you're good. You need to keep reevaluating your environment. You need to have what you stack up match the current situation. It might have been what you needed a year ago, but in this situation today, you have different needs. So constantly reevaluate where you're at with your preps, what you need. Make sure you understand the areas that you can improve upon. Now, like me, I still have a lot of gear I haven't tested and practiced with. So I'm not perfect, but part of this continuous reevaluation is also practicing and learning to use the things you did prep, right? I'm going to start cooking some of this Harvest Right freeze-dried food that I made, as well as some of the Augustine Farm stuff, and I'm going to do videos on them. But I want to know that, I can actually make this stuff in a pinch. I can make it with the solar-powered burner. I can cook in the dark with the water I got, and I can make sure I can eat. So these 5 things are going to get you through things that may occur, whether it's natural disaster, whether it's a war, whether it's financial collapse, another pandemic, another lockdown. If you can do these 5 things now, you will actually have a very good chance of surviving what's coming. Because keep in mind, unfortunately, the majority of people don't do any of these things. They live their life day to day. They don't have any notion of what's going on in Sudan today. They don't have any understanding of the relevance of the missile launch Korea did today, their so-called satellite. They're not putting all these numbers together to get the big picture of what's coming. And if you're watching my channel, because I have tens and tens of subs, if you're watching my channel, it's because you're really looking deep into prepping, and you probably know these 5 things already. This is a reminder for my friends and family and anybody else that stumbles upon what I'm up to and what I'm doing, that I am a prepper at heart. I am walking this talk. I am doing what I need to do to be ready for any of these situations that may arise. Okay? I mean, that's all I can do. Is I watch a lot of other prepper channels. They all are different. I won't even mention them. If you're a prepper, you're probably looking at the top 10 prepper channels anyways. But they each and every single one of them have something to add that others may have missed. News sources. I'm constantly taking time out away from this as well to make sure I'm mentally okay with what's going on. And I feel really good because I've been prepping for over a year. I'm really good at what I got. So again, 5 things. If you want to survive, you have to do all 5 of these. You can't slip. You can't decide to do 2 and then just stop. You need to continue to reevaluate. You need to continue to reassess, and you need to continue to practice. And if you were in the same mindset as I was, you need to continue stacking food. Food is going to be the thing that's going to catch so many people off guard here, unfortunately. And you can't eat, you can't live. All right, everyone. That's your doom and gloom for today. I hope you like the fancy backgrounds. I'm trying to, play my format around a little bit to make these kind of interesting and things that you might enjoy. If you do enjoy this, go ahead and hit the like button. If you're in the prepping communities and they don't know who I am, share my links. Maybe other people will come along and follow what I'm doing. Now with that, I'm going to wish you all a good day and be safe.